I pulled into our driveway at 9:47 p.m. I remember checking the clock because I thought, good, the kids should be asleep by now. The house was dark except for one light, our bedroom. I walked up the front steps, my keys already in my hand, but when I reached for the door, it was unlocked. Jason never left the door unlocked. Never. He was paranoid about security, always lecturing me about checking the locks twice. I pushed the door open slowly, and that's when I heard it. Laughter. His laughter. Deep, genuine, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard from him in, God, I couldn't even remember how long. My heart started racing. Something felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. I walked through our living room, past the toys I'd picked up that morning, past the family photos on the wall, photos of us smiling, pretending we were happy. The laughter was coming from upstairs, from our bedroom. My feet moved automatically, one step at a time, climbing those stairs I'd climbed 1,000 times before. But this time, each step felt heavier, like I was walking toward the edge of a cliff. I reached the landing. Our bedroom door was open just a crack, light spilled out into the hallway, and then I heard another voice, a woman's voice, soft, familiar, so painfully familiar. I pushed the door open. Time stopped. There he was, my husband, Jason, sitting on the edge of our bed, the bed where we'd made love, where we'd conceived our children, where I'd cried myself to sleep more nights than I could count. And next to him, my sister, Emma, my baby sister. They weren't touching, not in that moment. But I could see it. I could see everything in the way they sat too close, in the wine glasses on the nightstand, in the guilt that flashed across both their faces when they saw me standing there, in the way Emma's hand jerked away from his arm, in the way Jason's eyes widened, then quickly hardened, in the way neither of them said, "It's not what it looks like," because we all knew exactly what it looked like. My chest tightened. The air left my lungs. My hands trembled so violently I had to grip the doorframe to keep from collapsing. Every memory we'd shared, our wedding day, the birth of our children, the promises whispered in the dark, every single moment felt like a lie. Emma stood up first. "Sarah, I don't..." The word came out strangled, barely human. Jason stood too, but he didn't come toward me. He just stood there, his face unreadable. No shame, no remorse, nothing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab something and throw it. I wanted to demand answers, to cry, to fall apart right there. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because in that moment, as the shock began to crystallize into something else, something cold and sharp and calculating, I realized something. I had been a fool. Not just about this, about everything, about all the times he'd worked late, about all the times Emma had stopped by to help with the kids, about all the little moments I'd dismissed as paranoia or exhaustion. How long? How long had this been happening under my own roof? How long had they been laughing at me? I stood there, frozen in the doorway, while my husband and my sister stared at me like I was the intruder, like I was the one who didn't belong in my own bedroom, in my own home, in my own life. And then Jason spoke. "Sarah, you're being dramatic. We were just talking. Just talking." The dismissal in his voice, the casual cruelty of it, lit something inside me. Not fire. Something colder, something patient. I didn't say another word. I turned around and walked back down those stairs, my footsteps eerily calm. I walked past the living room, past the kitchen, past all the evidence of the life I'd built. I went to the guest room, the room that had become my sanctuary on nights when Jason's snoring or my own anxiety kept me awake. I closed the door, locked it, and I sat on the edge of the bed in the darkness. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I sat in that room, in that darkness, and I began to plan. Because the betrayal wasn't just about him and her. It wasn't just about the affair I'd stumbled upon. It was about everything I had given up, everything I had sacrificed, everything I had lost to become the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect doormat, my dreams, my career, my identity, my peace. All of it, gone. And that night, I decided that what came next would change everything. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was what I discovered 3 days later, hidden in Jason's study. The worst part was realizing that this betrayal went deeper than I could have ever imagined, and he had absolutely no idea what I had been planning in silence. Before I tell you what happened next, before I reveal the secrets that would destroy my husband's perfect little world, I need you to do something for me. If you're as shocked as I was that night, if you want to know how far this betrayal goes and how I made them all pay for what they did to me, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel because trust me, you're not going to want to miss how this story ends. And comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Are you listening to this at work, at home, in the middle of the night because you can't sleep just like I couldn't? Let me know. Because this is for every person who's ever been betrayed, dismissed, or made to feel invisible in their own life. Now, let me tell you what happened next. Let me tell you about the 12 years that led to that moment. And let me tell you about the revenge that no one, not Jason, not Emma, not anyone, saw coming. I met Jason when I was 24 years old. I was in my final year of graduate school, pursuing my master's in architecture. I was going to design buildings that touched the sky. I was going to create spaces that made people feel something. Wonder, peace, inspiration. I had dreams. God, I had so many dreams. Jason was 28, already established in his father's real estate development company, confident, charming. He had this way of looking at me like I was the only person in the room, the only person who mattered. He pursued me relentlessly. Flowers at my apartment, surprise visits to my studio while I worked on designs. He told me I was brilliant, that my work was extraordinary, that he couldn't imagine his life without me. 6 months later, he proposed. I said yes. Looking back now, I can see all the signs I missed, the way he dismissed my excitement about a project, the subtle comments about how architecture was a tough field for women, the gentle suggestions that maybe I should focus on our future instead of chasing an impossible dream. But I was in love. Or at least, I thought I was. We got married in June, right after I completed my master's. I had 3 job offers from prestigious firms. 3 opportunities to start the career I'd worked so hard for. Jason convinced me to turn them all down. Just for a year, he said. Let's enjoy being newlyweds. You can start your career anytime. Right now, let's focus on us, on building our life together. 1 year turned into 2. 2 years turned into a pregnancy. I gave birth to our daughter Maya when I was 27. They don't tell you how much motherhood changes you, how it rewires every cell in your body, every thought in your mind, how you become a different person overnight. The labor lasted 18 hours. 18 hours of pain so intense I thought I would die. And when it was over, when they finally placed Maya in my arms, I looked down at her perfect little face and felt terror, not joy, not overwhelming love, terror. Because I knew in that moment that I had just given up everything I'd ever wanted. The sleepless nights started immediately. Maya didn't sleep. She screamed. For hours, every night. The doctors said it was colic, that it would pass. It didn't pass for 7 months. 7 months of walking the floors at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., of bouncing her, singing to her, begging her to please just sleep. Jason would sleep through it all. I have to work in the morning, he'd say. As if I didn't. As if caring for a screaming infant wasn't work. When Maya was 3 months old, I tried to go back to my designs. I'd sneak into my old studio space, the corner of our guest room, during her naps. I'd pull out my drafting table, my pencils, my dreams. I'd get maybe 15 minutes before she'd wake up crying. 15 minutes to remember who I used to be. Jason found me there one day, hunched over my drafting table, Maya screaming in the baby monitor. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice sharp. "The baby's crying." "Why aren't you with her?" "I just needed a minute," I whispered. "I just needed—" "You're a mother now, Sarah. This is your job. This is what you chose. What I chose." As if I'd chosen the sleepless nights. As if I'd chosen to lose myself completely. As if I'd chosen to feel my body break and my dreams shatter while he slept peacefully in our bed. I put my designs away that day. I packed up my drafting table, my pencils, my portfolios. I convinced myself it was temporary, just until Maya got older, just until things got easier. Things never got easier. Maya was 2 when I got pregnant again. I didn't want another baby, not yet. I'd barely survived the first 2 years of motherhood. My body hadn't recovered. My mind hadn't recovered. But Jason wanted a son. "Every man wants a son," he'd say. "Don't you want to give me that?" As if my body was a factory for his desires, as if I existed solely to produce his legacy. I gave birth to Dylan when I was 30, The pregnancy destroyed my body in ways the first one hadn't. I gained 63 pounds. My blood pressure skyrocketed. I developed gestational diabetes. Toward the end, I could barely walk. My feet swelled so badly I couldn't fit into any shoes. I spent the last month on bed rest, while Jason complained about having to do everything around the house. Everything meant loading the dishwasher twice a week. Everything meant occasionally picking Maya up from daycare. Everything meant existing in the same house as his family without actually parenting. Dylan was an easy baby compared to Maya. He slept, he ate, he smiled. But now I had two children who needed me constantly, endlessly, without pause. Dylan was 6 months old when I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. My body, the body that had once been strong and capable, that had walked miles across college campuses, that had pulled all-nighters over beautiful designs, was foreign to me. Stretch marks covered my stomach like a roadmap of everything I'd lost. My breasts sagged from breastfeeding, my hair fell out in clumps from postpartum hormones. I had a permanent tiredness etched into my face, dark circles that no amount of sleep could erase. I was 30 years old and I looked 50. Jason noticed too. He stopped touching me, stopped looking at me with desire, stopped pretending I was anything other than the mother of his children, the keeper of his house, the ghost in his home. When I tried to initiate intimacy, he'd pull away. "I'm tired," he'd say. "Work's been stressful." But he wasn't too tired to go to the gym 5 days a week. He wasn't too tired to go out for drinks with colleagues. He wasn't too tired to look at other women when we went out to dinner, the rare times we went out. I watched my husband's desire for me die, and I blamed myself. I blamed my body. I blamed my exhaustion. I blamed everything except the truth that Jason had never really loved me. He'd loved the idea of me, young, ambitious, beautiful, a trophy. Now I was just used. I started trying to lose the weight when Dylan was 1. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. before the kids and try to exercise, try to reclaim some version of the body Jason had once desired. But I was so tired, always so tired, and every pound I lost came back because I stress ate, because the only comfort I had in those endless days was food, was the brief moment of pleasure from something sweet, something warm. Jason started making comments. "Maybe you should try that new diet everyone's talking about. You know, Karen from my office lost 50 pounds. You could ask her how she did it." "I'm just worried about your health, Sarah. The kids need you to be healthy. The kids needed me." But he didn't. The cruelty started small, little comments, little digs. "Are you really going to eat that? Maybe you should take the stairs instead of the elevator. Remember when you used to care about how you looked?" Then it escalated. Dylan was 3, Maya was 5. We were at a company barbecue, one of Jason's firm's family events. I wore a sundress, the only dress I owned that still fit. I'd tried to do my makeup, tried to look presentable, tried to be the wife Jason wanted me to be. We were standing with a group of his colleagues when one of them, Mark, I think his name was, made a joke about his wife's cooking. "She's trying to fatten me up," Mark laughed. "Wants to make sure no one else looks at me." Everyone chuckled politely. Then Jason spoke. "At least you have to worry about that." He glanced at me. "I think Sarah's already accomplished that mission. Haven't you, honey?" The group laughed. They actually laughed. I stood there, my face burning, my chest tight, while my husband and his colleagues laughed at my expense. I excused myself, went to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and I cried. Silent, shaking sobs that I muffled with my hand because I couldn't let anyone hear. I couldn't let them know they'd broken me. When I came out, Jason was talking to a woman, young, beautiful, thin, everything I wasn't anymore. He didn't even notice when I returned. That was the night I realized he was ashamed of me, ashamed of what I'd become, ashamed of the sacrifices I'd made to give him the family he wanted. When Dylan started preschool, I thought maybe, just maybe, I could reclaim a piece of myself. I had 3 hours, 3 mornings a week when both kids were in school, 3 hours to remember I was more than a mother. I reached out to my old contacts in architecture, sent emails to the firms that had once wanted me. The responses were crushing. "We filled that position. We're looking for someone with recent experience. Perhaps you could start with an internship? Though I see you're, 33 now? That might be difficult. 12 years since I graduated. 12 years since I'd worked on anything more complex than a Lego tower with my kids. In architecture, I might as well have been dead. I tried to freelance, small projects, tiny renovations for friends of friends, but I couldn't focus, couldn't create the way I used to. Because even on those 3 precious hours when the kids were in school, I wasn't free. I was grocery shopping, cleaning the house, scheduling doctor's appointments, coordinating playdates, managing every single detail of our family's life, while Jason went to work and pretended he was the only one with responsibilities. When I did try to work on a design, Maya would come home from school sick, or Dylan would have a meltdown at pickup, or Jason would forget he was supposed to be home early and I'd have to abandon everything to handle bedtime alone. Again, always alone. I took on one small project, a bathroom renovation for one of Jason's colleagues' vacation homes. I poured everything into it, stayed up late after the kids were asleep, sketching designs, sourcing materials, trying to create something beautiful. I presented my designs to the client, proud of what I'd created. They loved it. For a moment, I felt alive again, capable, talented. Then Jason found out I was working. "What about the kids?" he demanded. "What about the house? What about dinner?" "I can manage both," I insisted. "It's just one small project. You can barely manage the family, Sarah. The house is a mess. Maya's been eating frozen dinners. And now you want to add work on top of that? Maya has eaten frozen dinners twice because I was working," I shot back. "You eat out for lunch every single day and no one questions." "I'm providing for this family." His voice rose. "I'm working 60 hours a week to give you and the kids everything you need. The least you can do is keep the house in order and take care of our children properly." I quit the project the next day, sent an email to the client apologizing, saying I couldn't complete the work. I deleted my portfolio website, I packed away my materials, and I accepted the truth I'd been avoiding for years. I wasn't an architect anymore. I wasn't anything anymore. I was just Jason's wife, Maya and Dylan's mother. A ghost living in the shell of dreams that had died a long time ago. Emma moved to our city 6 months before I discovered the affair. My baby sister. 10 years younger than me. 27, beautiful, free, everything I used to be. She'd just finished graduate school, ironically in interior design, close enough to architecture to feel like a knife in my heart every time she talked about her work. She needed a place to stay while she looked for an apartment, looked for a job. "Of course you can stay with us," I'd told her on the phone. "We have the guest room. Stay as long as you need." Jason had been enthusiastic about the idea. Too enthusiastic, I realize now. "It'll be nice to have help with the kids," he'd said. "And Emma's great, fun. It'll be good for you to have her around. Good for me." Emma arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. She looked radiant, glowing, her whole life ahead of her. I helped her bring her bags in, showed her to the guest room. "Thank you so much, Sarah," she said, hugging me. "I promise I won't be a burden. I'll help out however I can." She did help. She was wonderful with the kids. Maya and Dylan adored her. She'd play with them for hours, do arts and crafts, take them to the park. She'd cook dinner sometimes, clean up, do laundry. She was everything I couldn't be anymore, energetic, fun, effortless. And Jason noticed. It started with small comments. "Emma made the best pasta tonight. You should get the recipe from her." As if I hadn't been cooking pasta for him for 12 years. "Emma took the kids to that new playground today. They had a blast. Maybe you should take them there sometime." As if I didn't spend every single day taking care of our children. Emma's telling me about her design projects. Fascinating stuff. "Did you know she just won an award for her thesis?" As if he hadn't convinced me to give up my own design career before it even started. Then he started comparing us directly. We were all having dinner together, me, Jason, Emma, and the kids. Emma had made some elaborate salad with ingredients I'd never heard of. "This is incredible," Jason said, smiling at Emma. "Sarah, when's the last time you made something like this?" I stared at him. "I make dinner every single night. Chicken nuggets and mac and cheese aren't really making dinner, are they?" Emma looked uncomfortable. "Jason, that's not— I'm just saying it's nice to have a real meal for once. Sarah, you could learn something from your sister." I excused myself from the table, locked myself in the bathroom, stared at my reflection, exhausted, aged, broken, and wondered when I'd become so easy to dismiss. When I finally came out, I could hear them in the living room, laughing, Jason and Emma. Their voices light and easy. The kids were in bed. I stood in the hallway listening to my husband laugh with my sister in a way he hadn't laughed with me in years. Jason's 39th birthday was in September. I'd planned a party, invited his colleagues, his friends, some family. I'd spent days preparing, made his favorite foods, decorated the house, arranged everything perfectly. Emma helped, of course. She was living with us after all, but somewhere during the planning it stopped being my party for Jason and became our party, mine and Emma's, except everyone gave Emma the credit. Emma, this decoration is gorgeous. Emma, did you make these appetizers? They're incredible. Emma, you have such great taste. I stood in my own kitchen, in my own home, at my own husband's birthday party, and I was invisible. Jason spent the entire night by Emma's side, laughing at her jokes, complimenting her outfit, introducing her to everyone as my brilliant sister-in-law, the designer. He didn't introduce me to anyone. Why would he? They already knew me. The exhausted wife, the mother who'd let herself go. Midway through the party, I was carrying a tray of drinks when someone bumped into me. The glasses shattered on the floor. Everyone turned to look. "Jesus, Sarah," Jason said, his voice sharp with irritation. "Can you be more careful? Not, are you okay? Not, did you get hurt? Just annoyance that I'd caused a scene at his party." Emma rushed over with paper towels. "It's okay, I've got it," and she cleaned up my mess while I stood there shaking, trying not to cry in front of 50 people. Later that night, after everyone had left, I was cleaning up the kitchen alone. Jason came in, slightly drunk. "Great party," he said. Emma really pulled it together. "I planned this party," I said quietly. "I spent 3 days preparing." "Yeah, but Emma added all the special touches, the decorations, the food presentation. She just has an eye for this stuff. It's her training, I guess. Her training, the training I was supposed to have, the career I was supposed to pursue." "I have the same training," I whispered. "Had," Jason corrected. "You had the same training." "But that was a long time ago, Sarah. You're out of practice." The late nights started in October. Jason and Emma would stay up talking after I went to bed. I'd put the kids down, exhausted from the day, and retreat to our bedroom around 9 p.m. I'd lie there, listening to their voices drifting up from downstairs, laughing, talking about design, about art, about philosophy. All the things Jason and I used to talk about when we first met. All the things he'd lost interest in once I became a mother. One night, I couldn't sleep. It was past midnight. I came downstairs for water. They were on the couch together, not touching but close, too close, a bottle of wine between them, nearly empty. They looked up when they saw me, and I saw it, the flash of guilt, of being caught doing something they shouldn't. "Can't sleep?" Jason asked casually. "No," I said. "Thought I'd get some water." "Emma was just telling me about her new project," Jason said. "A restaurant redesign. Really innovative stuff. Sounds great." My voice was flat. I got my water, went back upstairs, lay in our bed alone while my husband stayed downstairs with my sister. I started noticing other things. How Emma would dress up when she knew Jason would be home. How Jason would make sure to be home for dinner when Emma was cooking. How they'd text each other throughout the day. I saw the notifications on Jason's phone. How Emma suddenly needed help with career advice that required long coffee shop meetings with Jason. I wasn't stupid. I knew what was happening, but I was paralyzed by the impossibility of it. My husband, my sister. It couldn't be true. It was too cruel, too unthinkable. So I told myself I was paranoid, that I was seeing things that weren't there, that my insecurity was making me imagine betrayal where there was only friendship. I gasped myself to sleep with these lies. Then one day, I saw them together. I'd taken the kids to the pediatrician. We got out early. I decided to surprise Jason at his office for lunch, something I hadn't done in years. But when I drove past his building, I saw his car at the coffee shop across the street, and through the window, I saw him, with Emma. Sitting across from each other, leaning in close, smiling, her hand on the table, his hand covering hers. I sat in my car across the street, kids in the back seat asking for snacks, and watched my husband hold my sister's hand. I watched him look at her the way he used to look at me, with desire, with interest, with life in his eyes. I watched her laugh, radiant and young and everything I wasn't anymore. And I knew. This wasn't friendship, this wasn't innocent, this was betrayal, and it had been happening under my roof, in my home, with someone I trusted. I drove home in silence, put the kids down for their nap, and I began to plan. Not revenge, not yet. First, I needed proof. I needed to know exactly how deep this betrayal went. I started investigating my own husband. It sounds insane, doesn't it? But what choice did I have? I needed to know the truth, all of it. I started with his phone. Jason was careless. He'd leave it unlocked on the counter while he showered, while he slept. I went through his messages first. Most were innocent, work stuff, messages with friends. But then I found a thread that made my blood run cold. Messages to Emma, deleted but not permanently. They were still in his recently deleted folder. Jason can't stop thinking about last night, Emma. Me neither. This is crazy. Jason, I know. But I can't help how I feel. Emma, what about Sarah? Jason, Sarah doesn't understand me anymore. She's not the person I married. Emma, this is wrong. Jason, is it? Or is it the first thing that's felt right in years? I read through months of messages. Deleted conversations restored like excavating a mass grave of my marriage. They'd started texting in August. Innocent at first. Then, not so innocent. Compliments. Flirtation. Confession of feelings. By September, they were meeting secretly. Coffee shops. Parks. Once, a hotel lobby. Always careful. Always just talking, they'd say in the messages. Nothing physical, Emma had written. We're just talking. But I knew better. Emotional affairs are just as devastating as physical ones. Maybe more so. Because they'd given each other their hearts, their minds, their emotional intimacy. All the things Jason had stopped giving me years ago. I went through our financial records next. Jason handled all our money. I had access to our joint account for groceries and kids' expenses, but he managed everything else. It's easier this way, he'd always said. I'm better with numbers. Now I wondered what he'd been hiding. I logged into our credit card accounts. Charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to, a hotel in the city, the same hotel where Emma had mentioned meeting a client for her portfolio, jewelry purchases, flowers, wine. None of it for me, all of it in the months since Emma arrived. I added it up. Jason had spent over $12,000 on Emma in 6 months. $12,000 on my sister while I wore the same 3 pairs of jeans I'd rotated for the past 3 years because I didn't need new clothes. $12,000 while I'd been denied a budget to take the kids to the zoo because we need to save money. $12,000 while he'd complained about the grocery bills being too high. But that wasn't the worst of it. As I dug deeper into our finances, I found something else, a separate savings account, one I didn't know existed, in Jason's name only, with $87,000 in it. $87,000 that I knew nothing about. I scrolled through the transaction history with shaking hands. Monthly deposits for the past 8 years. Money systematically moved from our joint account into this secret account. Small amounts at first, $500, $700, then larger, $2,000, $3,000. Money that should have been ours. Money that could have helped us, helped our family, helped me restart my career. Hidden away where I could never touch it. I sat there in the darkness of our home office, staring at that number, and understood something that broke me all over again. Jason had been planning his exit for years. He'd been building a nest egg, preparing for the day when he'd leave me, and I'd been so consumed with raising his children, maintaining his home, being the perfect wife, that I hadn't noticed I was married to a stranger. A stranger who'd been stealing from our family, from me. I printed everything, every bank statement, every credit card bill, every receipt, every deleted text message. I took screenshots. I created a folder on my laptop, password protected, backed up to a cloud account Jason didn't know I had. I documented everything, because I knew with absolute certainty that I was going to need this evidence. I planned to confront them a dozen times. I'd rehearse what I'd say, how I'd walk in and throw the evidence in their faces, how I'd scream and cry and demand answers. But every time I came close, I'd stop myself, because I realized something important. If I confronted them now, Jason would have the power. He'd twist it, make me seem crazy, paranoid. He'd done it before with smaller things. You're being dramatic, Sarah. You're reading too much into things. Your insecurity is making you imagine problems that don't exist. He was a master manipulator. He'd make this my fault somehow. And Emma, she'd cry, apologize, play the victim. I never meant for this to happen. It just developed naturally. I love you, Sarah. I never wanted to hurt you. No, I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction. I wasn't going to be the hysterical wife having a breakdown. I was going to be smart, calculated, patient. I was going to wait for the perfect moment. And then I was going to destroy them both. I started keeping a journal, not a diary, a strategy document. I documented everything, every time Jason came home late smelling of Emma's perfume, every time they exchanged loaded glances across the dinner table, every time Jason criticized me in front of her, every lie, every secret, every betrayal, and I began to plan. Step 1, secure my financial future. I opened my own bank account, one Jason knew nothing about. I started taking cash back every time I grocery shopped. $20 here, $40 there. Nothing he'd notice. I saved every penny I could. I also contacted a divorce attorney, quietly, confidentially. Her name was Margaret Chen. She had a reputation for destroying unfaithful husbands in court. We met at a coffee shop 30 minutes outside town where no one would recognize me. I need you to tell me my options, I told her, sliding the folder of evidence across the table. Margaret spent an hour reviewing everything. The messages, the financial records, the hidden account. When she finally looked up, she was smiling. Mrs. Hartwell, your husband is an idiot. Excuse me? Hidden accounts in his name only? Using joint credit cards for an affair? Documented evidence of financial infidelity? This is a divorce attorney's dream. She leaned forward. With this evidence, you'll get primary custody of the children, a significant portion of marital assets, and likely spousal support. That secret account? It's marital property. You're entitled to half. But I need you to do something for me, Margaret continued. Don't confront him yet. Not until we have everything documented. Can you do that? Can you live with this secret a little longer? I thought about the 12 years I'd spent sacrificing everything. I thought about the humiliation, the cruelty, the dismissal. I thought about Jason sleeping peacefully while I walked the floors with screaming babies. Yes, I said, I can do that. Good. Because we're going to make him pay for every single moment of pain he's caused you. Step 2. Document the affair publicly. I needed witnesses. Evidence that couldn't be denied. I started inviting people over more often. Jason's colleagues, our friends, family. I watched Jason and Emma carefully, waiting for them to slip up in public. It didn't take long. I hosted a dinner party in early October. Invited 3 couples from Jason's work, his boss and wife, our neighbors. I spent the day cooking, cleaning, preparing. Emma helped, of course. She was always helping. Jason came home early to get ready. He was in a good mood, excited to show off for his boss. The evening started normally. Drinks, appetizers, small talk. But I watched. I watched how Jason's hand would linger on Emma's back when he passed her in the kitchen. I watched how they'd gravitate toward each other, even when they were on opposite sides of the room. I watched how they'd share private jokes, secret smiles. And I watched as our guests began to notice. Sarah, Jason's colleague's wife, pulled me aside in the kitchen. Sarah, I don't want to overstep, but is everything okay? What do you mean? She hesitated. It's just, Jason and your sister seem very close. I let my face crumple just slightly, just enough. I know, I whispered. I've noticed too. But I don't know what to do. She's my sister, he's my husband. I feel crazy for even thinking. Sarah squeezed my hand. You're not crazy. Trust your gut. When we returned to the living room, Jason and Emma were on the couch together, not touching, but their body language spoke volumes. Turned toward each other, knees almost touching, lost in conversation. Jason's boss, Robert, caught my eye, gave me a look that said, I see it too. The dinner party ended early, awkward goodbyes, pitying looks directed at me. I'd done it. I'd planted the seeds of doubt in everyone's minds. Now when the truth came out, no one would be surprised. They'd all remember this night, remember seeing it with their own eyes. The next 2 weeks were torture, living in the same house with them, watching them, pretending I didn't know, sleeping next to Jason every night while he texted my sister, making breakfast for Emma while she smiled at me with false sisterly affection. But I endured, because I knew something they didn't. Margaret had filed the divorce papers. They were ready, waiting for the perfect moment. I'd secured my own apartment, paid the deposit with my secret savings, arranged for movers. I'd transferred copies of all my evidence to 3 different locations, cloud storage, a safety deposit box, and with Margaret. I'd prepared Maya and Dylan as much as I could without telling them the truth. Talked to them about how sometimes families change, how Mommy and Daddy might not live together anymore, how it wouldn't be their fault. Everything was in place. I just needed the right moment. Then, on October 17th, I got a text from my mother, feeling much better. You don't need to come tonight. Rest. You've been working so hard. I'd been planning to spend the evening at her house like I did every Tuesday. But now, I didn't have to. I had a choice. I could go home, walk in on whatever was happening between Jason and Emma. Or I could wait. Stick to the plan, file for divorce next week as scheduled. I chose to go home, because sometimes you need to see the betrayal with your own eyes. You need that final, undeniable proof to kill whatever love remains. And that's how I found myself standing in my own bedroom doorway at 9:47 p.m., watching my husband and my sister confirm every suspicion, every fear, every heartbreak I'd felt for months. The look on their faces when they saw me. Jason's eyes widened, then quickly hardened. No shame, no remorse, just annoyance that he'd been caught. Emma's face went pale. She stood up, stammering. "Sarah, I can explain." "Don't," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. "Don't insult me by pretending this is anything other than what it is." Jason stood too. "Sarah, you're overreacting. We were just talking, I repeated. Just talking. That's what you said about the coffee shop meetings, the late nights, the text messages." Emma's eyes widened. You went through his phone?" "I went through everything," I said quietly. "The phone, the credit cards, the bank statements, the secret savings account with $87,000 in it. Did you know about that, Emma? Did he tell you about the money he's been hiding from his family?" Emma looked at Jason, betrayal flickering across her face. "What is she talking about? Oh, he didn't tell you?" I laughed, but it was hollow. Jason's been planning his exit for years, building a nest egg, getting ready to leave. Was he going to take you with him, Emma? Or were you just entertainment until he found someone younger? "That's enough," Jason snapped. "You're being crazy. Don't you dare call me crazy." My voice finally rose, finally broke. "I have been nothing but devoted to you. I gave up my career, my dreams, my body, my identity, everything, to give you the family you wanted, to be the wife you needed, and you repay me by stealing from me, humiliating me, and fucking my sister. We haven't," Emma started. "It doesn't matter if you have or haven't," I cut her off. "You've given him everything that mattered, your time, your attention, your emotional intimacy. You've been his wife in every way that counts while I've been what? The maid? The nanny? The joke?" Tears were streaming down Emma's face now. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant—" "You never meant to what? Fall for my husband? Betray your own sister? You knew exactly what you were doing." Jason stepped forward. "Sarah, let's discuss this rationally." "Rationally?" I laughed again. "You want to discuss this rationally? Fine. Here's rational. I've documented everything. Every text message, every receipt, every lie. I have evidence of your affair, your financial infidelity, your hidden assets. I've already consulted a divorce attorney. The papers are drawn up." The color drained from Jason's face. "You... what?" "I've been planning too, Jason. While you were too busy with my sister to notice, I've been building my case. And it's airtight." I pulled out a folder from my purse, threw it on the bed. "Divorce papers. I suggest you read them carefully. Margaret Chen is my attorney. You might have heard of her. She specializes in destroying unfaithful husbands." Emma was sobbing now. "Sarah, please, get out of my house," I said coldly. "Pack your things and get out, tonight. Now, Sarah, now!" Emma fled from the room. Jason and I stood there, facing each other across the ruins of our marriage. "You'll regret this," he said quietly. "You'll never find anyone else. Look at you. You're broken, used up. No one will want you." I walked up to him, looked him straight in the eye. "You're right," I said softly. "I am broken. You broke me. 12 years of cruelty, dismissal, and betrayal broke me. But you know what? I'd rather be broken and free than whole and trapped with you." I turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "Oh, and Jason, that secret account you've been building, it's marital property. I'm entitled to half. So really, thank you. Thank you for being stupid enough to leave a paper trail. Thank you for being arrogant enough to think I wouldn't find out. And thank you for giving me everything I need to destroy you." I locked myself in the guest room that night. I could hear Emma sobbing as she packed, hear Jason on the phone, presumably calling a lawyer. I didn't care. I lay on the bed, strangely calm, and waited. My phone exploded with messages. "Emma, please, Sarah. Please let me explain. I made a mistake. I love you. You're my sister. My mother, Emma, just called me crying. What's happening?" Sarah, call me. Jason's mother. How could you kick Jason out of his own home? Have you lost your mind? I ignored them. All around midnight I heard Emma leave, her car pulling out of the driveway, probably going to a hotel. Jason stayed. This was his house too, legally. He went to our bedroom, slammed the door. I didn't care. I finally felt free. The next morning I called Margaret. It's time, I said. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The divorce papers were served to Jason at his office 3 days later, in front of his colleagues, in front of his boss. Margaret had made sure of that. Jason called me immediately, furious. You had me served at work? Do you know how humiliating that was? Yes, I said calmly, I do. Remember your company barbecue? When you humiliated me in front of all those people? Consider us even. The legal battle was swift and brutal. Jason hired an expensive attorney, tried to fight for primary custody, tried to claim I was an unfit mother. She's mentally unstable, his lawyer argued at our first hearing. She went through my client's private communications. She's paranoid, possibly suffering from postpartum depression. Your client, Margaret interrupted, was having an affair with his wife's sister, using marital funds to wine and dine his mistress, and hiding $87,000 in a secret account. My client wasn't paranoid. She was right. She laid out every piece of evidence, the text messages, the receipts, the hidden bank account, witness testimonies from the dinner party, people who'd seen the inappropriate relationship developing. Jason's face grew redder with each revelation. The judge was not sympathetic. The custody hearing was the hardest part. Maya and Dylan were questioned, gently by a child psychologist, about their home life. Mommy takes care of us, Maya said. Daddy's always at work. Do you see Daddy much? The psychologist asked. Sometimes, but he's usually on his phone or with Aunt Emma. Dylan, at 6, was less articulate, but he said enough. Daddy yells at Mommy, makes her cry. I don't like it when he yells. The psychologist's report was damning. The children have a strong primary attachment to their mother. The father appears to be emotionally distant. There are indications of verbal abuse witnessed by the children. Jason's lawyer tried to argue that I'd poisoned the children against him. But Margaret had prepared for this. She had testimonies from Maya's teacher, Dylan's pediatrician, neighbors, all describing me as the primary caregiver, the involved parent, all describing Jason as absent at best, negligent at worst. The judge's decision was clear. Primary physical custody to the mother. Father will have supervised visitation every other weekend until he completes a parenting course and anger management counseling. Jason's face when the verdict was read. Shock, anger, disbelief. He'd never imagined he'd lose. He'd underestimated me until the very end. The financial settlement took longer. Jason fought tooth and nail to keep his hidden money, but the law was clear. It was marital property. In the end, I got half of the hidden $87,000, half of our home equity. We had to sell the house, spousal support for 6 years. Enough time to retrain and restart my career, child support, half of Jason's retirement accounts, reimbursement for half of the $12,000 he'd spent on Emma during the affair. Margaret had been thorough, ruthless, perfect. You realize, Jason's lawyer said during our final settlement meeting, that you're essentially destroying my client's financial future. No, Margaret replied coldly. Your client destroyed his own financial future when he chose to betray his wife, hide assets, and engage in financial infidelity. We're simply ensuring that Mrs. Hartwell receives what she's legally entitled to after 12 years of marriage and sacrifice. I watched Jason's face. Watched him realize that his carefully hidden nest egg was gone. That his plan to leave me with nothing had backfired spectacularly. Sign the papers, Jason, I said quietly. He looked at me with hatred, pure, undiluted hatred. This isn't over, Sarah. Yes, I said, it is. He signed. Emma reached out to me 6 weeks after the divorce was finalized. Please, Sarah, can we talk? Just talk? Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet her. One last time. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes. Weight loss. The glow she'd had was completely gone. Thank you for meeting me, she said as I sat down. I didn't respond, just waited. I'm so sorry, she began. I know that doesn't mean anything, but I am. I was stupid and selfish, and I destroyed our relationship for nothing. For nothing? I raised an eyebrow. Jason and I, we're not together. We tried, after everything, but, she laughed bitterly. Turns out he doesn't actually want me. He wanted the fantasy, the forbidden fruit. Once it was available, he lost interest. He dumped you, I said flatly. 3 weeks ago. Said I was too needy, too emotionally demanding. Emma's voice broke. I lost you. I lost our whole family. Mom won't speak to me, Dad's ashamed of me. And for what? For a man who never actually cared about me? I should have felt satisfaction, but I just felt tired. What did you expect, Emma? I don't know. I think I was jealous of you. That made me laugh. Actually laugh. Jealous of me? You had everything, Emma said. A husband, kids, a home, a life. And I had nothing. I was 27, single, struggling to start my career. And Jason, he paid attention to me, made me feel special, important. So you decided to take what was mine. I didn't think of it like that. I wanted to feel what you had, to be wanted like that. You want to know the truth, Emma. You want to know what I had that you were so jealous of? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I had nothing. I had a husband who despised me, who spent 12 years systematically breaking down my self-worth, who took everything from me, my career, my body, my dreams, and then punished me for not being who I used to be. That's what you were jealous of. That's what you destroyed our relationship for. I had sleepless nights and stretch marks and a constant, gnawing feeling that I wasn't enough. I had anxiety and depression and the overwhelming certainty that I'd wasted my life. That's what you wanted, Emma. Congratulations. You got a taste of it. Emma was sobbing now. I'm so sorry. Sarah, please, you're my sister. No, I said, standing up. I was your sister. But you made your choice. You chose Jason over me, over family, over everything, and now you have to live with that. Please don't do this. Goodbye, Emma. I walked out of that coffee shop and never looked back. The divorce was finalized in February. I moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment with Maya and Dylan. It wasn't much, nothing like the house Jason and I had shared, but it was mine, ours. Mommy, can I paint my room purple? Maya asked. Absolutely, I said. Can I have dinosaurs in mine? Dylan asked. All the dinosaurs you want. They ran off to plan their rooms, excited despite everything they'd been through. Kids are resilient like that. I stood in the middle of my new living room, surrounded by boxes, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. With the spousal support and child support, I had enough to live on while I rebuilt my career. I enrolled in online courses to update my skills, reached out to old professors, started freelancing again. Small projects at first. It was hard, balancing single motherhood with studying with work, but it was also exhilarating because I was doing it for me, not for a husband who'd dismiss my work, not to prove anything to anyone, just for the pure joy of creating again. 6 months after the divorce, I got an email from an architecture firm, a good one. They'd seen my freelance work online, wanted to interview me for a junior architect position. We know you've been out of the field, the email read. But your portfolio shows raw talent and fresh perspective. We'd love to talk. I got the job. It didn't pay much. I was starting over after all. But I didn't care. I was an architect again. Over the next year, I transformed, not just professionally, but personally. I started therapy, dealt with the trauma of the marriage, the betrayal, the years of emotional abuse. I joined a gym, not to please anyone, not to get my body back, but because I wanted to feel strong. I made new friends, other single mothers, women who understood the struggle, the exhaustion, the triumph of surviving. I cut my hair short, got new clothes, experimented with makeup, not because I needed to look good for anyone, but because I wanted to, because I deserved to feel beautiful. One day, about 18 months after the divorce, I caught my reflection in a store window and stopped. The woman looking back at me was different, confident, strong, alive. I looked happy. 2 years after the divorce, I was at a work dinner. My firm had just won a major contract, a museum redesign I'd helped pitch. We were celebrating at an upscale restaurant downtown. I was laughing with my colleagues, feeling accomplished, when I saw him. Jason, at a table across the restaurant, alone. He looked diminished somehow, older, tired. He was on his phone, scrolling mindlessly, eating alone. Our eyes met. Recognition flickered across his face. Then shock, because I wasn't the broken woman he'd left behind. He stood up, started walking toward my table. My colleagues noticed, fell silent. "Sarah," he said when he reached us. You look good. Thank you," I said calmly. "I didn't know you were working again. There's a lot you don't know about me anymore, Jason." He glanced at my colleagues, at the expensive restaurant, at the confident woman I'd become. "Can we talk, privately?" "I don't think that's a good idea. Please, just 5 minutes." I looked at my boss, who nodded. I excused myself. We stepped outside. We stood on the sidewalk, 2 years and a lifetime apart. "I made a mistake," Jason said. I laughed. Actually laughed. "A mistake? That's what you're calling it?" I was stupid, selfish. I threw away everything, our marriage, our family, for nothing. "You threw it away long before Emma," I said. "You threw it away every time you dismissed me, every time you made me feel worthless, every time you chose anything, work, the gym, your phone, over me." "I know. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I've been miserable without you, without the kids. You see the kids every other weekend. It's not enough. I want us back. I want our family back." I stared at him, at this man who'd broken me so thoroughly, who'd taken 12 years of my life and crushed them, who now stood before me asking for another chance. "Jason, let me tell you what I want," I said quietly. "I want to go back to my colleagues and celebrate this incredible achievement. I want to go home to my children, our children, and read them bedtime stories in the home we've built without you. I want to wake up tomorrow and work on designs that make me proud. I want to live my life free from your cruelty, your manipulation, your constant need to make me feel small. Sarah, I don't want you. I don't want us. I don't want anything from you except for you to be a decent father to Maya and Dylan. That's it. You're making a mistake," he called after me. I stopped, turned back. "No, Jason, you made the mistake. I'm just finally smart enough not to repeat it." I walked back inside, back to my colleagues, my career, my life. I didn't look back. 3 months after the encounter with Jason, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. "Hello, Sarah?" "It's Michael Garrett." The name meant nothing to me at first. "I'm sorry, we went to graduate school together. Architecture program, I was 2 years ahead of you." Then I remembered. Michael, brilliant designer. We'd worked on one project together. He'd graduated and taken a position at a firm in New York. "Michael, of course. How did you get my number?" "I saw your work, the museum redesign. Sarah, it's incredible. I recognized your style immediately." We talked for an hour, about architecture, about design, about the years that had passed. He told me about his firm, about an opening for a senior architect position. "I want you to interview for it," he said. "I've seen what you can do. You're exactly what we need." "Michael, I appreciate that, but I just got back into the field. I'm nowhere near senior level. You're better than half the people I've worked with who've been in the field continuously. Sarah, you have something special, always did. Come to New York, interview, see what happens." I told him I'd think about it, but even as I said it, I knew I was going to do it. I sat Maya and Dylan down the next evening. They were 8 and 10 now, old enough to understand, old enough to have a say. "I need to talk to you both about something important," I said. They looked at me with those wide, trusting eyes. "I got offered a job, a really good job. But it's in New York." Maya's face fell. "New York? But that's far away." "It is. It would mean moving, new school, new friends, a big change." "What about Daddy?" Dylan asked. "Daddy would stay here. But we'd come back to visit, and he could come see you. We'd figure it out." "I don't want to leave my friends," Maya said, tears welling up. "I know, baby, I know it's scary, but sometimes we have to take chances on things that could make our lives better. This job, it's everything I've worked toward, everything I dreamed about before you two were born." Dylan spoke up, his voice small. "Are you happier now, Mommy, than before, when Daddy lived with us?" The question hit me hard. "Yes," I said honestly, "I am." "Are you?" He nodded slowly. "I like it when you smile. You didn't smile as much before." Maya reached for my hand. "If this job makes you smile more, then maybe we should go." I pulled them both into my arms and cried. Not sad tears. Not anymore. Tears of gratitude, of love, of hope. "We'll make it an adventure," I whispered. "All 3 of us together." I flew to New York 2 weeks later. Michael's firm was in a stunning building in Manhattan. Glass and steel, modern, beautiful. everything I'd once dreamed of being part of. The interview was with the founding partners, 3 of them. Michael had prepped me. Just be yourself. Show them what you showed me. I presented my portfolio, the museum redesign, the smaller projects I'd completed over the past 2 years. But I also showed them my old work, the designs from graduate school, the projects I'd never gotten to build. "Why the gap?" one partner asked, pointing to the 12-year empty space in my resume. I could have lied, made excuses, softened it. But I didn't. I got married, had children, and I made the mistake of putting my career aside completely. I thought I could do both, but my husband, he had different ideas about what my life should look like. And now I'm divorced. Now I'm a single mother of 2 incredible kids who understand that dreams matter. Now I'm ready to build everything I should have built 15 years ago. The partners exchanged glances. "Your work is exceptional," another partner said. "Frankly, you're overqualified for the position we're offering." My heart sank. "However," she continued, "we'd like to offer you something else. A partnership track position. It's demanding. Long hours, high pressure. But based on what we see here, you can handle it." "A partnership track?" I repeated. "You have vision, Sarah. Raw talent that most architects lose after years in the field. You still have it. We want to nurture that, build on it. What do you say?" I say, "When do I start?" We moved to New York that summer, a small but beautiful apartment in Brooklyn, close to good schools for the kids, a manageable commute to Manhattan for me. Jason fought it at first, threatened to take me to court for relocating with the children, but Margaret shut that down quickly. "Your client sees them every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. He's barely involved. The court will see this job opportunity as beneficial to the children's welfare. He'll lose, and it'll cost him thousands in legal fees." Jason backed down. The custody arrangement changed. The kids would spend summers with Jason, holidays would alternate, and I'd bring them back once a month for a weekend visit. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Maya and Dylan adjusted faster than I expected. New schools, new friends, the excitement of the city. "Mom, can we go to the Museum of Natural History this weekend?" Dylan asked during our first week. "Mom, my art teacher said there's a junior architecture program I can join," Maya announced. They were thriving. We all were. 3 years passed, 3 years of hard work, long hours, challenges and triumphs. I led my first major project, a sustainable housing development in Queens. It won awards, got featured in architectural magazines. My name was back in the conversation. Sarah Hartwell, architect, not Jason's wife, not Maya and Dylan's mother, though I was proud to be both, just me. The firm offered me a junior partnership. At 43 years old, I'd done it. Everything I'd dreamed of at 24 I'd achieved. Just took a slight detour through hell to get there. My assistant buzzed in. "Sarah, you have a visitor. Says it's personal. A Jason Hartwell?" My stomach dropped. "Send him in." Jason walked into my office and stopped, stared at the space, the view, the evidence of everything I'd accomplished. "Sarah," he said, "Jason, what are you doing here?" He looked worse than the last time I'd seen him. 3 years of consequences had aged him badly. "I wanted to see you, to talk. About the kids, you can call for that. Not about the kids." He sat down without being invited. "About us." I almost laughed. "There is no us. I made a mistake. I know I've said that before, but... Jason, why are you really here?" He looked down. "I lost my job 6 months ago. Dad's firm went under. The economy, bad investments. It's gone." Ah, there it was. "I'm sorry to hear that. I'm struggling, Sarah, financially. I can barely make my rent. And the child support, don't." My voice turned to ice. "Don't you dare ask me to reduce the child support. I'm just saying you're doing well now. You don't need it. That money is for Maya and Dylan, for their school, their activities, their future. It has nothing to do with what I make. Sarah, please, I'm desperate here." I stood up, walked to the window overlooking the city. "Do you know what I think about, Jason?" I said quietly. "I think about all those nights I begged you for help with the kids, and you said you were too tired. I think about all the times I asked for money for groceries and you said we needed to budget better. I think about the $87,000 you hid from me, the $12,000 you spent on my sister. I know, I was terrible to you. You weren't just terrible, you were cruel. You systematically destroyed my self-worth, my career, my dreams. And now? Now you come to me because you're struggling?" I turned back to him. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep paying child support. All of it. Every penny. You're going to figure out your financial situation without involving me or the kids. And you're going to leave my office and never, ever ask me for anything again. Sarah. We're done, Jason. We've been done for years. The only relationship we have is as co-parents. That's it. Now get out. He stood, walked to the door, stopped. I really did love you once, you know. I looked at him, really looked at him. No, I said. You loved what I could do for you. You loved having someone to control, but you never loved me, and honestly, I don't think you're capable of loving anyone but yourself. He left. I stood at my window watching the city and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just nothing. He was irrelevant to my life now. That evening, after Maya and Dylan were asleep, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on my balcony overlooking Brooklyn, and I thought about everything that had happened. There was something I'd never told anyone, something I'd kept secret through the entire divorce, the entire rebuilding of my life. A truth that would have changed everything if I'd revealed it. I'd known about the affair before that October night. I'd known for months. I found the first text message in July, 3 months before I supposedly discovered them. I'd been using Jason's phone to check the weather, mine was dead, and a message from Emma popped up. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. You make me feel alive. I'd stood there, frozen, as message after message came through, and instead of confronting them then, I'd smiled, closed the phone, and I'd begun to plan. You see, I'd been wanting to leave Jason for years. But I couldn't. We had a prenuptial agreement, one his father had insisted on before we married, one I'd signed stupidly, naively, at 24. If I left him, I got almost nothing, but if he had an affair, if I could prove infidelity, the prenup was void, so I waited. I documented everything. I gave them rope, time, opportunity. I made sure they got comfortable, careless. I even suggested Emma move in with us, knowing it would escalate things. That night in October, I didn't come home early by accident. My mother wasn't sick. I'd asked her to lie for me. I'd planned the whole thing. I'd known they'd be together when I walked in, known I'd catch them, known it would be the final piece of evidence I needed. I'd orchestrated my own heartbreak, staged my own discovery, played the devastated wife perfectly, all so I could escape with my children and enough money to rebuild. Was it manipulative? Yes. Was it calculated? Absolutely. But was it wrong? After 12 years of emotional abuse, of sacrificing everything while he gave nothing? I don't think so. I used their betrayal to free myself. I let them think they'd broken me when really, they'd set me free. I raised my glass to the city lights, to revenge served cold, to patience rewarded, to the life I'd built from the ashes of my marriage. Thank you, Jason, I whispered. Thank you for being exactly as terrible as I knew you'd be, 5 years after the divorce. I stood on stage at the American Institute of Architects Awards ceremony. The award for innovative residential design goes to Sarah Hartwell for the Brooklyn Heights Sustainable Living Complex. I walked across the stage in a dress I'd designed myself, accepted the award with steady hands, looked out at the audience, colleagues, friends, my children in the front row. Thank you, I said into the microphone. This project represents everything I believe architecture should be: sustainable, beautiful, and accessible. But more than that, it represents second chances. I paused, looking at Maya and Dylan. I spent years believing my dreams were over, that I'd sacrificed too much, waited too long. But I was wrong. It's never too late to rebuild, to reclaim yourself, to design the life you deserve. To every person out there who's lost themselves in someone else's expectations, your story isn't over. Your dreams aren't dead. They're just waiting for you to be brave enough to chase them again. The applause was deafening. 6 months later, I sat in my office reviewing designs for a new project when my assistant buzzed. Sarah, there's someone here to see you. Says she's your sister? My hand froze over my keyboard. Send her in. Emma walked in, and I barely recognized her. She looked older, worn, but also somehow lighter. Sarah, she said, I know I have no right to be here. You don't. I know, but I needed to see you, to tell you something. I gestured to a chair. She sat. I've been in therapy, she said, for 3 years dealing with Everything. What I did, why I did it, and I was jealous. But not in the way I told you before. I wasn't jealous of what you had. I was jealous of who you were. You were always the successful one, the smart one, the one everyone was proud of. And when you gave that up for Jason, for the kids, some part of me was glad. I was glad you failed, she continued, tears streaming, because it meant I could finally be the successful sister, the one with the career, the one everyone admired. And when Jason paid attention to me, it felt like I'd finally won something you couldn't have. That's sick, Emma. I know it is, and I've spent 3 years understanding why I thought that way. How our parents' expectations damaged us both, how I let my insecurity turn me into a monster. I'm not asking for forgiveness, Emma said. I know I don't deserve that. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I destroyed. And I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. I looked at her for a long moment. I appreciate you saying that, I said finally, and I hope you find peace. I really do. But Emma, we're not going to be sisters again. Not in any real way. That door is closed. She nodded, tears falling. I know. But, I continued, surprising myself, maybe someday we can be civil. Maybe at family events. Maybe if you really do the work and change. Thank you, she whispered. That's more than I deserve. Yes, I agreed. It is. She left, and I sat there feeling free from the anger, the betrayal, the weight of it all. That evening, I came home to my apartment. Maya was working on a college application essay. She was 17 now, brilliant, headed for architecture school. Dylan was building a model. At 15, he'd decided he wanted to be an engineer. How was your day, Mom? Maya asked. Interesting, I said, kissing the top of her head. Emma came to see me. Both kids looked up. Aunt Emma? Dylan asked. Yeah, she apologized. For everything. What did you say? Maya asked. I told her the truth, that I can't forgive her, not fully, but maybe someday we can be civil. That's very mature of you, Mom, Maya said, sounding far older than her years. I laughed. I'm still learning, we all are, she said wisely. I sat down at my drafting table. Yes, I still hand-drafted sometimes for the joy of it, and looked at my children. These 2 incredible humans who'd seen me at my lowest and loved me anyway, who'd moved across the country with me, who'd adapted, survived, thrived. You know what? I said. I think we should go out for dinner. Celebrate. Celebrate what? Dylan asked. Life, I said. The fact that we made it through. The fact that we're here together, happy. That's worth celebrating, don't you think? They agreed enthusiastically. As we headed out, I took one last look at my apartment, at the life I'd built from nothing, at the dreams I'd resurrected, at the woman I'd become. Jason had tried to break me. Emma had tried to replace me. The world had tried to convince me I was nothing without them. But they were all wrong. I was everything. I always had been. I just had to lose everything to remember it. That's my story. The story of betrayal, heartbreak, and revenge. But more than that, it's a story of resurrection. Of a woman who was buried alive in someone else's expectations and clawed her way back to the surface. If you're listening to this, and you're in a situation like I was, trapped, dismissed, made to feel invisible, I want you to know something. You are not stuck. You are not too old, too tired, too broken. You are not defined by what you've sacrificed. You can rebuild. You can reclaim yourself. You can design the life you deserve. It won't be easy. It will hurt. It will require patience, planning, and courage you didn't know you had. But you can do it. I did. And if I can rise from the ashes of a 12-year emotional graveyard, so can you. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it inspires you, empowers you, or at least reminds you that you're not alone. New stories drop on this channel every single day. Stories of survival, revenge, and triumph. Subscribe so you don't miss them. And remember, the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming everything they said you couldn't be.